Are you serious? President Vladimir Putin is speaking at a news conference about Syria. Let's listen in live.
We have seen a split of opinions on Syria at this summit. How far can these political disagreements and disparities affect economic relations in the future? And how do you see the prospects of Russian-Western relations in the future? You know, everything that's going on in the Middle East affects the global economy very strongly, because this is a region that brings a substantial share of oil resources to the global table. And as soon as there is a turmoil or a crisis in the Middle East, you see oil prices spike globally. And of course, that holds back economic development. Of course, in a difficult period for the global economy such as this, destabilizing the Middle East is counterproductive, to say the least. Indeed, yesterday we spent the entire evening discussing the issue of Syria and all the related issues. We spoke a lot about it. We only closed at about 1 a.m. Moscow time, and then we had also a bilateral meeting with Mr. Cameron until 3 a.m. in the morning. You said there was an equal split, a 50-50 split on Syria here at the forum, but that is not exactly so. I can say that the United States, Turkey, Canada, Saudi Arabia and France were in favor of a military operation against Syria. We also know that the British Prime Minister, Mr. Cameron, was also in favor, but the British Parliament said no.
Wow.
The General Federal Chancellor has also been very reserved, and Germany is not going to undertake any military action. In the meantime, Russia, China, India, Indonesia, this is the largest Muslim nation, Argentina, Brazil, South Africa, Italy, all these nations have been opposed to the notion of a military operation. And even UN Secretary General also spoke against such a military operation. And let's not forget the address of the Pope, who said directly that it would be unacceptable to have a new war of hostilities in that country. I have enumerated the nations that are in favor of expanding the military conflict in Syria by these military strikes. But the latest public opinion surveys show that even in these countries, the majority of the population are on our side. They are opposed to the idea of waging a new war in Syria. In Europe and the United States, up to 60% of the citizens are opposed to the notion of this war. And once again, I can tell you that the entire case, this entire affair with the alleged use of chemical weapons in Syria was a frame-up staged by the insurgents who hoped to provoke a foreign military operation. That was the whole purpose of this frame-up.
All right,
that's number one. Secondly, I would like to remind you that using military force against a sovereign nation is only allowed if it is self-defense, which it is not for the United States. And secondly, in case there is a mandate of the UN Security Council. As one of the participants of our discussion said yesterday, those who act differently would become outlaws themselves.
Now that is actually live. You're hearing it as he was saying it. He's calling that those who do this, those who get outside the United Nations Security Council and make an attack on Syria would be outlaws themselves. Speaking of course, the United States of America was his reference. Now he did mention several countries that are for attacking Syria, and he mentioned several countries that are against. If I can remember, I heard him say United States, Turkey, and Canada, and then he said a couple more countries. I'll have to go back and watch this YouTube video as you are to remember what those other two were. But basically what I'm hearing is 5 nations are for attacking Syria, and maybe there's 20 nations there. He didn't name the other 15, but he named a pretty significant amount of them are against it. Obviously, Vladimir Putin believes that the chemical weapons used were not done by Assad, but in his mind were done by the opposition or the Islamic extremists group of that, which would be Al-Qaeda freedom fighters that are fighting alongside Muslim Brotherhood freedom fighters. And it's coming from that camp in his mind. Now, the President of the United States, who will be speaking later today, and I'm going to cover it live when he does on my radio show, so don't miss it. I'm sure he has a different perspective and has a different agenda. As I just did a YouTube video a moments ago, breaking news, America has ordered all of its essential personnel and non-emergency personnel out of the embassy in Lebanon. They're almost closing the embassy down, and that sounds like a strike is coming. They even told the embassy workers in Turkey, if you'd like to go home, you can too, but we're not closing the embassy. And also, the United States announced late last night that they were expanding their military options as it relates to Syria from not only 200 Tomahawk missiles to be fired from 5 destroyers there in the Mediterranean, but also bringing in B-2 and B-52 stealth bombers to help in the campaign. I see this as a major ramping up, and so we're going to have to wait and see what develops. So that was live. That was Vladimir Putin as he was answering questions to him about Syria. I just happened to glance and see it was live. I just flicked it on and turned on this YouTube video. You heard it just as I did, and he's continuing to talk right now, but that was the gist of it right there. I'll be right back with more YouTube videos, and don't miss today's broadcast. It will be powerful. It may be prophetic as we're looking at the destruction of Damascus, prophesied in the Bible in Isaiah 17 verse 1 and in Jeremiah 49 verses 23 through 27. Also, there's some other scriptures that talks about some devastation in the region, but it does talk about this confusing spirit of the drinking of the wrath from the cup of the wine of the cup of God, the wrath of the wine of God, and that's in Jeremiah 25, and I see that's certainly working among many nations. I'll be right back. Give your life to Jesus Christ. We're on the edge of eternity right before our very eyes.